Following the collapse of the Roman Empire, the institutions that governed Western Europe simply dissolved. Central government, professional armies, and courts of law vanished. Without an overarching authority to maintain borders or enforce laws, local chiefs stepped into the void. They seized control of large tracts of land and immediately began fighting one another in a relentless cycle of territorial violence. For the average person living through this, the disappearance of the state left them completely exposed. With no police to call and no legal system to petition, absolute lawlessness became the baseline of daily life. In an environment where violent chaos is the default setting, a new structure had to emerge. It was built to solve one specific, unifying problem: physical survival. At the top of this emerging structure was the king, but at this point in history, the monarch didn't wield absolute authority over a nation. He was simply the strongest and most successful of the warring chiefs. This diagram maps out the king's strategy to stop the endless infighting. He offered rival chiefs a transaction, trading control of land for an oath of absolute loyalty and military service. The historical term for these granted tracts of land is a fief. Once a chief secured a fief from the king, they immediately replicated this exact deal, carving up their own land to grant to lower-tier sub-chiefs in exchange for the exact same military loyalty. On paper, the king held the authority to take a fief back from a disloyal vassal, but removing a deeply entrenched chief was incredibly difficult, meaning this penalty was rarely enforced in reality. Even with that weakness, this cascading network of oaths stabilized the top tier of society. It replaced scattered, warring warlords with a highly structured, landed aristocracy. Moving down from the aristocracy, we find the physical unit that actually powered this entire economy: the manor. This consisted of the lord's castle and the vast agricultural lands surrounding it. Because military chiefs and sub-chiefs dedicated their time to warfare and administration, they did not farm. They required a massive labor force to cultivate their fiefs and generate actual wealth. This chart breaks down the labor economy of the serf, a peasant legally bound to the lord's land. A serf divided their time between cultivating their own small plots for survival and working the lord's fields. On top of that labor, they owed extra dues in cash and kind to their master. The other side of that transaction happened inside the castle walls. In exchange for the serf's exhausting labor and taxation, the lord of the manor provided law, order, and physical protection from outside raids. The manor operated as a self-contained mini-state, stepping in to provide the essential physical security that the Roman Empire used to guarantee. The feudal system successfully cured the immediate threat of widespread social anarchy, but it came at a severe cost. It built a rigid, inescapable trap for the lower classes. At the top, the landed aristocracy quickly became strictly hereditary. Powerful families closed their ranks, actively ensuring that outsiders could not rise to positions of power. At the bottom, the restrictions dictated every aspect of life. Serfs were legally barred from changing their profession or migrating to new areas. They could not even marry without obtaining explicit permission from their lord. Yet the constant threat of violence outside the manor created a strange paradox. Lawlessness was so terrifying that completely free peasants, people unbound by birth or debt, willingly approached these lords and signed away their own liberty to become vassals just to gain the safety of the walls. Feudalism functioned as a desperate, continent-wide bargain. Millions of people, over generations, agreed that securing physical safety was worth the permanent surrender of their freedom.